It's another edition of the Wrap Up Show with John and Jim. As always, we are presented by Mark Nimitz at Farmers Insurance. Before we get going, we know the lockout is still going on, but if you want exclusive year-round Padres content, we are here for you, even in the slower periods like December and January. Hit the subscribe button down below. You see Jim. Yeah, he's pointing to it. Hit the subscribe button down below. Hit the notification bell. You'll be notified when we have new videos. Also, make sure to like these videos and follow us on Twitter at John Schaefer, at Jim Russell SD. By the way, happy holidays, happy new year. And let's tell you about our title sponsor, because if you're looking for an insurance provider in 2022, we know a number of you have already contacted Mark Nimitz. We'd ask you to do that if you support the Wrap-Up Show. Mark Nimitz at Farmers Insurance. If you've got auto, home, renters, or life insurance needs, please consider Mark. He's a San Diegan. He is a huge Padres fan. If you own an electric vehicle or are looking to buy an electric vehicle in 2022, Mark can help with your rates. I always say he's got great customer service and communication, because he does. He's got over 10 years in the insurance business. And again, if you have any insurance needs, we have a link directly below for Mark Nimitz's website. Let him help you and your family with your insurance needs if you support the Wrap-Up Show in 2022.
Yeah, Mark is the best. His information is above my head, as always. mnimitz at farmersagent.com. That's his email address. Probably the best way to reach him. Also, phone number as well. And when you reach out to him, let him know the Wrap-Up Show John and Jim sent you.
Yeah, please, again, reach out to Mark Nimitz if you support the Wrap-Up Show. All right, here's a question. As we're just about 90 days away from opening day, assuming this lockout ends. I mean, think about that. We're 90 days from opening day here at the end of December. Who's going to close for the Padres in 2022? This has basically been answered the last handful of years, as A.J. Preller's addressed this very well, I think, in off seasons, or had a closer basically on board prior to the start of the season, like last year with Mark Melancon. So you look at 2022, Jim, there are some options. We'll throw out a handful here today. Let's start with Dinelson Lamet, but let's just start by saying there's no clear-cut answer in terms of who closes for the Padres to start 2022.
And we saw a video going around social media. I retweeted it, of Dinelson Lamet throwing off a mound. Kind of feels a little bit like deja vu. Did the same exact thing last year. Everyone's like, oh, great, Dinelson Lamet's back. Right. And it turned into, there's no other way to say it. It was disastrous 2021 season for him. Coming off the season he had in 2020, he never got even comfortable, it felt like, in 2021. So for me, Dinelson Lamet, if he's healthy, that's a really good option, because he has closer stuff. He throws 99 with a slider that's unhittable. So he has closer stuff. It's just, can he stay healthy? And is he going to be reliable? Can you rely on him to pitch 3 out of 4 days, like when needed, in the most important times of the year? To me, I don't think you can. With his, health history, to ask him to do that, that's asking a lot.
I'm with you. I mean, last year, 22 appearances. Obviously, a closer is going to need to make what? 60 appearances.
How many did Mark Melancon?
I mean, it was a massive number.
Yeah, it was massive.
It was a massive number. He led baseball in saves. So from 22 appearances to 60 appearances seems like a bridge too far. And I know he made half of those appearances last year were starts, but he had a 1.5 whip last year. He just wasn't near the pitcher he was when he finished third in Cy Young voting in 2020. I'm with you. I mean, if he is healthy and kind of works his way into it and proves to the Padres that he's capable of taking on that workload of pitching, like you said, 3 times every 4 days or maybe 5 times in a week, I just don't envision it. Now, could he be a 7th or 8th inning guy, kind of like a platoon guy where you use him, every other day or every other time you have a lead? And I said the other day, and you kind of balked at it, I said, well, yeah, could he make 50 appearances for you? And I thought that was possible, if he's healthy. But you bring up a good point. I mean, he made 22 appearances last year. Is he going to go from 22 to 50 plus next year? That might be a stretch.
Yeah. Until I see it, I don't know what to expect from Dinelson Lamet. Is he going to be starting games? Are they going to pitch him in relief? Are they going to yo-yo him back and forth, kind of like they did last year? Is he going to stay healthy? Is he going to get injured again? There's too many question marks with me for Dinelson Lamet, and it's hard not to say that we may never see what Dinelson Lamet could have been if he maybe got the surgery after the 2020 season. Because I'm not a doctor. I'm not Dinelson Lamet. I don't know his body at all, but it just felt like that him not getting the surgery was detrimental to his career, because who knows what's going to happen with him again? Who knows? Like I'd be shocked, honestly, if he actually makes the team next year, to be honest. Like that to
Well, I
me,
don't know about that. Really? I mean, if he's healthy, you don't think? I know. I think he makes the team. I mean, why you're saying because they've got so much, they've got depth, but they don't. I don't know if they have the high end pieces. Like if it was between Pomeranz and Pagan for me, or Pomeranz, if it was between Lamet and Pagan for me, forget about Pomeranz. I mean, obviously, if Pomeranz is healthy, he's over all these guys, including Pagan. But I mean, if Lamet's healthy, how are you choosing Pagan over Lamet?
I'm choosing Pagan because Pagan's actually pitched a full season as a reliever.
Yeah, true, but he's given up like 3 home runs in a
I
third of an inning.
I understand that, but Pagan, at least I know he can give you 60 plus appearances.
Sure. Yeah, he is a rubber arm.
So he has it. Pagan has it in him. He just had a horrible, second half last year. And he's also not really had a good career as a Padre. But who knows? Maybe he can get turned around with Ruben Niebla. If we're talking about reliable arms, I'm choosing Pagan over Lamet any day. Obviously, Lamet has way better stuff went on, but it's really no question for me that Pagan, at least I know he's going to go out there and give you 50 to 60 appearances every year. Lamet, who knows what's going to happen with him, honestly.
Let's throw that out for the chat down below. First of all, do you think Lamet makes the opening day roster if he's healthy for the Padres in 2022? And then just that kind of theoretical, Pagan because of his dependability over Lamet because of his inconsistencies with health. Let's throw that out to the chat down below. You can reply. Let's get to another name. And I mentioned him, kind of a slip of the tongue, Drew Pomeranz, who, when healthy, has been as good of a reliever as there's been in the National League the last couple of years. He's had a 1.45 and 1.75 ERA in 2 seasons with the Padres. There's a big caveat. There's a big however. He hasn't made any appearances. He's made 47 combined appearances the last 2 years, which we know there was the 60-game season, but he only made 20 appearances in the 60-game season. And then last year, like Lamet, he made 27 appearances. So I think it's the same thing, Jim, from my perspective. How can you close when you can't get on the mound, 45 times in a season? That's, he's never really been that type of reliever in his career.
All right, there's 2 things with Drew Pomeranz. One of them might sound kind of harsh. First one, you mentioned it, his health. He can't stay healthy. When he's healthy, he is one of the best relievers in baseball. He was paid all this money to be kind of like that, specialist lefty, but also be a super reliever, because when he became a reliever with the Brewers, they found something, they unlocked something, and it was like really eye-opening to everybody. And like, this guy can be a dominant reliever. So he needs to stay healthy. That is a major problem with him. 46 appearances in 2 years, or 47 appearances, whatever you said.
Yep.
In 2 years. That's not good enough for the money he's getting. And number 2, this might sound harsh, he needs to get in shape. It did not seem like he was in shape last year. It just felt like, to me, watching him on the mound, he was not in shape. I don't know if that played a factor into him getting injured the last couple years, but it just did not look like he was in shape to take on the grind of being a, pitching 2 out of every 3 days or 3 out of every 5 days. It just didn't look like that. I'm sorry. Dude needs to get in shape. He just did not look like he was in shape last year.
It's interesting you say that. I mean, I think your assessment is fair in terms of, for him to be the guy that the Padres paid for, he's just got to be available. I'd rather him have a 2.95. I'd rather him double that 1.45 ERA and make 60 appearances. Yeah, 60. Yeah. I'm with you. As opposed to what we've seen. I mean, and by the way, him being unavailable in the second half last year completely changed the Padres bullpen. I mean, it was taxed every single day. Yeah. You didn't have that 8th inning guy in front of Melanson. So I'm with you. I'd be surprised if he closes for the Padres in 2022. I'm going to throw out a name that I'm seeing pop up in some publications, which I think, off the cuff would be a little bit of a surprise, but you look at what he did last year, and he had a nice year. Pierce Johnson had a good year. Now, he was not pitching 8th or 9th innings primarily. He was pitching 6th and 7th inning primarily, 6th and 7th innings primarily, but 77 strikeouts in 58 and 2/3 innings, a 3.22 ERA, 63 appearances. Again, you've already got him You got him on the cheap, so to speak. You don't have to go outside the organization if you use Pierce Johnson for ninth innings. 1.26 whip last year. What do you think about Pierce Johnson potentially closing some games for the Padres next year?
You sensing the trend here? The trend is they don't have many guys with closing experience. And so every guy that we're mentioning, you have to look at, oh, he had a good year, but is he a closer? And that's
Right.
how I feel with Pierce Johnson. Like, he had a good year. He has good stuff. Does he have closer stuff? Can you rely on him in like massive games against the Dodgers on the road, Dodger Stadium, 50,000 people going crazy, 1-run lead in the bottom of the ninth inning? Like, can you rely on Pierce Johnson to lock it down? I,
There's
I
not a
mean,
lot of guys you can rely on in that spot, to be honest. But no, you make a good point. He's not proven to do that previously.
but my point is the Padres have had the last, I want to say, 4 years, a guy that I would trust in that position, starting with Brad Hand, Kirby Yates, Trevor Rosenthal, and Melanson last year. So they've
Yeah.
had a guy that you
Mm-hmm.
trust in the ninth inning, up by a run at Dodger Stadium, bottom of the ninth inning with 50,000 people there. Like, they've had a guy.
Right. Yeah, it's fair. I mean, it's
That's my
fair. I mean,
point.
how much do we really trust it? No, but you're right. They've come through in those spots. But like
So it's not like
with
it's
a
rare.
yeah,
Like,
with like
it's not
Trevor
rare.
Rosenthal's stuff. Like, were you really trusting that last year in the
In
postseason?
2020,
Or
he was really good.
he was good. That's fair.
Yeah. And Brad, Kirby Yates won reliever of the year. Brad Hand was on a really bad all-star teams, and he was, traded as part of kind of like a, move to get prospects in. Didn't work out with Francisco Mejia, but still, Brad Hand was pretty good when he was with the Padres.
And Melanson was. I mean, Melanson, to
Melanson
be
was
fair,
awesome.
was excellent last year. Yep.
So the last, 5 years?
Yeah, it's like 5 seasons. Yeah.
5 years, they've had a closer that I would trust in the ninth inning at Dodger Stadium. And right now, the first 4 guys you've named, I don't trust any of them.
Well, I trust. No, hold on. Yes, you do. You trust Drew Pomeranz. You just don't trust him to be available.
Okay.
I mean,
That's a good
you
point.
trust.
Yes, I trust him in the ninth inning.
Yep.
But I don't trust him personally to be healthy and in shape.
Yep. I agree with that.
That's a big thing here. The 4 closers that I named, Yates and Hand and Rosenthal and Melanson, those guys were all at the top of their game when they were here in a Padres uniform for when they closed and they were healthy.
Yep.
And Drew Pomeranz is good, but he's not healthy.
No,
he's not in shape.
That's fair. All right, we've got more names for you coming up in a moment. Who should close for the Padres in 2022? Before we get to that, we need to tell you about StreamYard. This is how we live stream. This is how we do our YouTube channel. And for you, our viewers, an exclusive offer, 2 weeks free on StreamYard. No credit card required. Hit the link down below. StreamYard, Jim, you can tell our viewers a little bit more about it, but this is so simple. It's how you podcast, videocast, live chat, set up a YouTube channel. Again, 2 weeks free, no credit card required. Click the link down below in the description.
StreamYard is the #1 free streaming app in the entire world. And if you're thinking about doing a podcast, if you want to record with some buddies, maybe those buddies aren't in the same area as you, but you still talk all the time, like, dude, we should do a podcast. You can do StreamYard, and it's the easiest thing in the world. And the best thing is StreamYard, you can stream on multiple platforms at the same time. You can just record videos and then upload them to whatever platform you want, or you can take the video that you recorded with your buddies and turn it into an MP3, load it onto your favorite podcasting site. Boom, you got a podcast, all because of StreamYard. So I can't recommend it enough, especially if you want to start your own podcast.
All right, StreamYard, again, 2 weeks free, no credit card required for our viewers. Click the link down below in the description. Let's get back to potential Padres closers in 2022. And how about some new names that have joined the organization this offseason before the lockout, to some extent maybe under the radar, starting with Robert Suarez, who last year in the Nippon Professional Baseball League was not just a closer, he was an outstanding closer, had something like a 1 ERA, had 42 saves. Now, he's never pitched in the big leagues, right, Jim? I mean, he spent a lot of time in Japan. He spent some time in Mexico as well. He's 30. He'll be 31 in March. So Robert Suarez, who certainly has figured something out in Japan, pitching to a 1 ERA this past year with 42 saves, could he be an outside the box or unconventional name to consider at the start of 2022?
I mean, like, I don't know
Is it that
much. I don't know
is it
much
that
about him,
wild?
but hearing you say that, like a guy that's never pitched in the big leagues before, and after what we just talked about, guys that you can rely on the road, with a 1-run lead in the bottom of the ninth inning in a must-win game, late in August and early in September, like, are you really gonna trust this guy?
Dude, he allowed
Ma
40 hits in 62 and a third innings last year. 40 hits in
Okay.
62 and a third innings
He's
at a
never pitched in the he's
1.16.
never pitched in the big leagues before.
Yeah, I know, but there's guys
Talk
that
to me when he's
have
thrown a pitch in the big leagues, and then
I
and then
I'll give
maybe
you an
I'll
example.
consider it.
Think about, like, Arizona signed, who was it? Merrill Kelly, who had never pitched in the big leagues. And then he's like a 2-year starter for him. Again, I'm not saying Merrill Kelly's closing games for a team that wins 95 games, but it's not like it's impossible to go from the Nippon Professional Baseball League and have success in the big leagues. I'm with you. Do I think he's got 50 saves next year in the big leagues? Maybe not. But I mean, I bet the
I think
Padres are counting him to be like a seventh or eighth inning guy.
I think Suarez is a guy that I personally would feel better suited as a 6th, 7th, 8th inning guy, maybe 8th inning guy. Depending on how he does, depending on how his stuff translates in the big leagues, depending on how he handles, tough situations. Because to me, to ask a guy who's never pitched in the big leagues before, who has had great numbers overseas, not
Hmm.
discrediting those at all. It's just this is a different game. Like these hitters are so much more advanced. There's a couple across seas, but sometimes you look at these lineup in baseball and you're like, okay, their 7th and 8th hitters are probably or would be the best hitters across seas. So it's tough. I kind of have to see how his stuff translates
Sure.
into the big leagues. Right now, I'm gonna say no on Robert Suarez as the Padres closer in 2022.
Okay. So far you are 4 no's. I would
I'm
say
0
that
for 4.
I would say that I wouldn't be shocked if Pierce Johnson was closing some games for the Padres in 2022, and I wouldn't be surprised if Robert Suarez was either. Now, I'm not saying it's the number one option and they'll have the best closer in baseball in those scenarios. I'm just looking at who are possible closers for the Padres in 2022. Here's another name, a former Cardinal, Luis Garcia, who last year did have a couple of saves in the big leagues. He's got 8 career saves. He had a decent year in relief overall. I think people are high on his stuff. He signed this offseason as a free agent. Are you higher on Luis Garcia than you are on Robert Suarez?
I've seen a couple comparisons of Luis Garcia's stuff as to this guy's Austin Adams with command.
That's pretty good.
And if that's the case with a slider like that, you have to think about it. And he did have a couple saves last year. I
Mhm.
wouldn't peg him as the day one closer. I do feel like the more names we read off, unless they once this lockout's over, make a move for a closer, either trade or sign something like one of the best closers ever is still out there. I highly doubt
Not
he would
having
come to
it.
the Padres, but
You're
Kenley
talking about
Jansen's
Kenley Jansen.
yeah.
Yeah.
If they make a move for a closer, then yeah, I think these guys are all just setup guys. But if they don't, it's kind of feeling like a closer by committee for me, at least to
Yeah.
start, and kind of like, hey, whoever shows us they can take the reins as being the closer, then you're the closer. Because there's been World Series teams that don't have a closer with 40 saves.
Mhm.
Some World Series teams
Absolutely.
have closers with like 15 saves, or like
Yeah.
they have like 2 closers with 15 saves, or 2
Sure.
relievers with 20 saves. So you don't need that Trevor Hoffman or Mark Melanson type of closer to win a World Series, but you do need a guy that can lock it down in the ninth inning, at least on your roster, because there's going to come a point where you just can't go by committee all the time and go by matchups. You need a guy just like,
Right.
look, you're the ninth inning dude. So I
Specifically in the postseason. I mean, the postseason is
exactly
very rare to be going by
right,
committee. Typically, you'd make a move in July if you didn't have a closer to kind of bolster that
right,
spot.
and so right now I would, if I had to like rank, I would put Garcia pretty high on the list. Um, Depending on the health of Drew Pomeranz. and his in shapeness. Is that even a word?
It's not going to be Pomeranz other than by committee. I mean, he's only pitched back-to-back days for the Padres like a few times in 2 years. So, I mean, how's he going to close? Again, he
Right.
can close games, but he can't be your closer.
True. True. And I don't know if you have this name. I'm totally jumping the gun here. Kevin Kopps. Is that a name on your list?
Listen, if you think that if you think Robert Suarez and Luis Garcia are stretches, you think that he starts the year or maybe
Starts the year?
finishes the year.
No. Not starts the year. But I'm just thinking about that playoff series with the Dodgers and the Giants, and then the Giants have this guy, I forget his first name, Duvall. I think his last name is Duvall.
Yeah. Yep.
And he kind of came out of nowhere at the end of the season. You're like, whoa, who is this guy? So I'm trying to think ahead. Like, is there that guy in the Padres system?
Kopps is a good. I mean, it's interesting you say that. We talked about him a little bit late last year, saying, "Man, the Padres have so little bullpen availability right now." Or
This
the
dude might
bullpen was so
come up.
taxed. We thought, what's that?
I said that dude might come up after he got drafted the same year.
We thought so. I thought so. Dude, Kopps is 24 and turns 25 March 2nd. He's
Was he the Golden
25.
Spikes Award winner?
And did he? I forget, dude. I think he did. 3rd round pick out of Arkansas.
Yeah.
Had unbelievable college numbers, but he's old for college. So I'm with you. I mean, in terms of an outside the box idea, I don't think he starts the year, obviously, as a closer. But you look at what he did last year for the Padres and the minors, 14 appearances at a .6, 92 appearances in college in his career, had a 2.59 career collegiate ERA. I'm with you. I think he helps the Padres in 2022. Now, to your point, I mean, maybe the second half he does become that guy. I mean, maybe that's a possibility. I like the fact that you threw out that name. He wasn't initially on my list. I like that name more than another name I'm going to throw out right now, Chris Paddock, who I don't even know if he's healthy. He's been completely unreliable, really, the last 2+ years. I don't know why people think that his stuff plays in the bullpen better than it does as a starter. I just don't think he's got great stuff. I think he's very hittable. I think his fastball is hittable. I think he's never established a third pitch, which I think people like for relievers because he has just 2 pitches, but I don't think his changeup is overly good for the fastball that he has. So, I think Chris Paddock, we've heard his name before as a potential reliever. I just don't see him as a 9th inning guy.
No. Next person.
Next person is free agency.
Okay.
I think other than Kopps, I mean, is there a free agent or potential trade the Padres could make on the other side of the lockout?
Nothing right now. Look, they're dealing with a situation where their payroll is massive. Like, they are over the $200 million payroll right now. Melanson got a 3-year. Was it 14? No. Was it 3 years?
Was
14 million?
Was it 3 or did he get 2 years?
It was 2 years, 14 million with an option for a third.
Yep.
They're
14 million per year, right?
Was it 14 million a year or 7 million a year? I forget. But it was
It might
the
have been
type of
7.
Yeah, it was the type of contract that you just were like, Padres were never going there. Like, they're never going to spend over $5 million for a closer unless Kenley Jansen's going to garner more money than that, and they're not going there. And I highly doubt it would come to the Padres. Yeah, I really do think that's going to be committee to start, and you might see. I'm not saying you will. A guy like Kevin Kopps, a guy in their system that. This is a better question for Mad Friars, who knows more about their farm system, but maybe it's a guy in their farm system who is kind of overlooked, but he's a flamethrower. He has great stuff. And who knows, maybe they find somebody they bring up later in the year and he kind of takes the bull by the horns and that guy becomes the closer. And that's why I said Kevin Kopps. He was the first name that came to my head because there was talk of him potentially coming up after he was drafted last season.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't hate that Melanson deal. I was just looking at it. You're right. 2 years, 14 million. I mean, nobody wants to give a closer that second year at his age, probably.
Too much for me.
The 7 million per year, I don't hate. The problem is multiple years. So, I would have given him $7 million for 2022. I wouldn't have given him $14 million for 2022 and 2023. And then outside of, I'm with you. I mean, Kenley Jansen's going to cost too much. I mean, Josh Hader, you're talking about giving up serious assets to acquire someone of that caliber. So I don't think either of us envision Josh Hader walking through the clubhouse for the Padres in 2022, other than as a visitor. I don't see Kenley Jansen either. And I think that they're going to need to attack it. And I've used this word like 5 times in this video for some reason, unconventionally. They're going to need to, because it's not, I'd be surprised right now if it is that all-star caliber first half closer that they acquire via free agency at the end of the lockout. I think they'll try to get cute and creative and use maybe 2 or 3 guys and see if one sticks. And ultimately, is having a reliable closer going to be the difference between making the postseason or not? It could be. It could be. They had a great closer last year. They didn't have a great team. I mean, it's not always as linear as that. But if it is the difference, Jim, then I think in July, AJ Preller probably attacks it at the trade deadline.
And real quick, thinking about this bullpen, you also have to factor in Bob Melvin and how he manages bullpens. And he's a pretty good manager of bullpens. He lets guys know, you're this, you're in this slot, you're in this slot. I'm going to rely on you this time. I'm going to rely on you this time. You're not dealing with a rookie manager anymore. You're not dealing with a guy who we have zero clue how he manages his bullpen. And from what Jay Stingler did, wasn't that great. So Bob Melvin's a factor in this as well, letting guys know and getting guys comfortable in their positions. And everybody's going to know their role. Like, that's what I feel comfortable about with his bullpen the most. If they have a closer to start the year or not, if it's committee or not, at least I know Bob Melvin is going to make sure everybody knows their role. And as a reliever, that's all you want.
All right, so let's answer this question. You can reply down below in the comments section. Who should be the Padres closer in 2022? Again, we've got year-round exclusive Padres content. We're doing it during the lockout. We're bringing you daily, weekly content. Please subscribe to the wrap-up show. Subscribe and hit that notification bell as well. You'll be notified when we have new videos. Look at Jim. He's telling you, please subscribe. That button is down below. And if you like these videos, please hit that thumbs up button as well. And follow us on Twitter at John Schaefer, at Jim Russell SD. Support our partners as well, Mark Nimitz at Farmers Insurance and StreamYard. Until next time, this has been the Wrap-Up Show presented by Mark Nimitz at Farmers Insurance.